Greetings, friend. I've solved thousands of Sudoku puzzles, and I'll give you my top 5 tips on how to solve Sudoku without any marks. Click below if you want to give this puzzle a go, and with that, it's solving time. So tip number 1 is you want to crosshatch until you get stuck. If you're not familiar with crosshatching, it's basically when you look across rows, like we're doing with these ones, and columns, to see if there's only one possibility for a candidate in a 3x3 block. If there is, you can solve that cell for that candidate. So in this case, with these ones and this one, you have 2 possibilities for 1 here in block 2. So we can't solve that. So we can move on to another part of the grid. So I can look down and up with these ones and across with these ones. You can see there's 2 possibilities here. Can't make any marks yet. And so you'll continue with this with these ones to see if you can make any solves. 2 spots here, can't do it. And you'll see with these 2 cells and this cell, you have 2 spots here, so we can't solve for any of the ones. However, if you move on to the 2s, you'll see cross action in action here, because we have this 2 cutting across row 3. And this 2 cuts across row 1, and this 2 comes up column 6. There's only one place left for a 2 in block 2, so we can mark that for a 2. And if you remember, a 1 could only be here or here, so now there's only one place left for a 1 in block 2. And you can bring these 2 ones down and see these 2 ones, and you can solve for a 1 right there. Okay, tip number 2 here is you want to work the numbers sequentially. So we looked at the 1s, we looked at the 2s, and you'll see with the 2s, there's not any more solving we can do right now because 2s are in these 4 spots here, 2 spots here, 2 spots here, all these spots, and 3 spots right there. So we'll work up to the 3s. Look at the 3s here, and you may notice that with these 2 3s coming up columns 4 and 5, there's only one place for 3 in block 2, so we can solve that. And then you got 2 spots in block 3, can't solve that. But if you look in block 4 with these 2 3s and these 2 3s, just by cross-hatching, we know a 3 can only fit in this spot. In fact, anytime you see 4 of a candidate looking into the same block, it will only be one possibility remaining. It'll only be one possibility. Okay, so you can solve that for a 3. You can continue on with the 3s. You'll notice that you have 2 possibilities for 3 here and here. We'll get back to that. So working on and moving on up to the 4s, and you'll see with these 2 4s in rows 5 and 6, and this 4 coming up column 8, there's only one place for a 4 in block 6. Okay, look at the 5s, because there's not going to be anything else you can solve with the 4s. You'll see 2 possibilities for 5 right there. 3 possibilities here. You got 1, 2, 3 here. You got at least 4 here, and you'll notice that all these are possible for 5s. You have 2 possibilities there. Not going to be able to make any solves with the 5s yet. Before moving on, my 3rd tip that's going to help you reduce your solve time on puzzles like this when you're trying to solve it without marks, I want to hear from you. How often do you solve puzzles without marks? Please drop in the comments and help me grow the best Sudoku community on YouTube. I love to share and hear what you have to say, share with the other viewers, and help us solve puzzles without marks even faster. I respond to each and every comment. Tip number 3 now is you have to know when you want to switch from playing cross-hatching to claiming singles. And I know that sounds like a really goofy name, a claiming single. But I'll show you what I'm talking about here with these 6s. Now you might look at the 6s and go, with these 2 6s, you know, you have 2 6s here, can't solve that. 3 places for a 6 here, can't solve that. These 6s in rows 5 and 6, 2 places here, 3 places here, and 2 places there. And then you can look and see 4 places in block 1. You might think, oh, well, we can't make any solves with the 6s. However, if you switch to this, what I'm about to show you, you can extend the solve and keep on solving without marks. This is a little tricky. I want you to focus on this column right here. Notice where a 6 can go in the column. Okay, can't go here because of this 6. can't go here because of this 6, and it cannot go here because of this 6. So there's only one possibility now for 6 in column 4. It can only go right here. And this is what we talk about when you're switching from cross-hatching to a claiming single. Since the 6 can only be in column 4 in block 2, 6 is claimed in block 2. And so we know we can solve, the 6 has to be in one of these 3 spots because there's no possibility for 6 in column 4 anywhere else outside of that block. And so you can solve that immediately because there's only one possibility there remaining. And by finding this, you're going to be able to extend your solve. Because now you can see with this 6 and these 2 6s, there's only one place for 6 in block 3. And then with these 2 6s and this 6, just cross-hatching, right? When I'm touching, I'm just going to cross-hatch. Only one possibility for 6 in block 1. And then follow these down. With this 6, we can solve for 6 in block 7. And you see how we got 4 more solved digits by finding that claiming single. And this is a bonus tip. You might wonder, Timberlake, when do you abandon solving without marks? You know, if I didn't see that, you may want to consider abandoning it. And my rule of thumb is basically when the next solve requires too much mental energy to solve without marks. So that might mean if you have to keep up with a lot of cells, a lot of candidates, it may not be worth it for you. But if you get better, you'll see that easy puzzles are going to be good candidates for solving without marks, and so are medium puzzles. You may not want to try hard puzzles yet until you can keep track of more candidates in your mind as you do it. And as with practice, it will get better. Nowhere else we can do it the 6s. We just have 2 6s here possible and 2 6s here. If you go to the 7s, you might see with just the 2 7s, we were not going to be able to solve any 7s by cross-hatching 1 8 and then just the 2 9s. You have 2 possibilities here, but there's not enough restrictions to make any solves yet with those 9s. So we've gone all the way through 1 through 9. You can go back to the 1s, and you'll notice now we just have 2 places here and 2 places there. Hopefully that makes sense to you. If we can just solve one of these 4 cells, we'll be able to solve the rest of the 1s. But since we've made some solves here, we go to the 2s, we might be able to make some more might be able to solve more cells for 2s. You got this 2 here now, and this 2. You can solve for 2 now in block 7. And then with these 2s and this 2, and this is kind of how the cross-hatching works, just move to the next available block. You can solve this cell for a 2. And then you might think we're done with the 2s. However, you'll see here you have 2 possibilities for 2 right there. And I'll color that. And then in block 5, you got these 2s coming down. You have 2 possibilities for 2 right here. So what you know is that since the 2s have to be in rows 4 and 6 in blocks 5 and 6, a 2 is either going to be here and here or here and here. This is similar to what we did with the 6s, but now you're doing this with the 2s. Where can a 2 be in block 4? And you might notice there's only one place for 2. It has to be in row 5 because there's nowhere else in row 5 to put a 2. Now, if you see the mini X-wing, this is what I commonly will see first. Then you know you can make that solve for the 2. The other way would have been what we did exactly with the 6s. You could have just seen that a 2 can't be here because of this 2, can't be here because of this 2, couldn't be here because of this 2, and cannot be here because of this 2. So you eliminate all those other possibilities. Have to be able to solve this cell now for a 2. And now after doing the 2s, we can move on. You'll see with the 3s, not going to be able to make any more solves because you still have the 2 possibilities here and the 2 possibilities here. How about those 4s? You might see now with the 4s that with these 2 4s, there's only one place for a 4 in block 3. And now you cut right across, look at the next available block. Only place the 4 goes right there. And then we can keep on solving with these 4s. solve for a 4 there. These two 4s, solve for a 4 here. And then with these two 4s and this 4, you can solve for 4 in block 1. And we've taken care of all of the 4s. And it's time for my fourth tip. Tip number 4, this will help you save time. You notice we've been scrolling through all the numbers over and over again, but you don't necessarily need to do that. Once you start getting more solves on the board, you can actually just pick up with a full house whenever possible. And if you're not familiar with terms like full houses, I recommend you download my free Sudoku solving guide. You can check out the pinned comment below. But a full house is any row, column, or block that has 8 of the 9 cells filled out. So in block 2 here, you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and an 8 all filled out. The only possible candidate remaining is a 9. And so that's a full house, and you can solve that for a 9. And by looking at the full houses, you're making a solve for sure, and then you can use that to start going back to the cross-hatching. So with these two 9s, you can actually solve for 9 now in block 1, and you're going to extend your solve a little bit. You see with these two 9s, you can solve for a 9 right here. And then with this 9 and this 9, you can solve for a 9 in block 8. And you'll see with these two 9s, it looks like there's 2 possibilities here. However, you might notice across row 5, where can a 9 go? Because of this 9, it can't be here or here. And because of this 9, it can't be here. So you can actually solve that cell for a 9 now. And then we can look for another full house. Not only do they come in the blocks, but you can have a full house of a column. You might notice in this case, you have 8 digits filled out. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a 9. The only thing remaining is an 8. And so once you solve that 8, go, hey, can I continue cross-hatching now with the 8s? And with these two 8s, you can solve an 8 in this cell right here. But you'll get stuck again. And so this is going to lead me up to my 5th tip. Because you could look for the 8s and notice you're not going to be able to solve 8s here or here yet, or here or here. And so what you want to do is look for the almost full houses. There are no full houses available. So we don't have any houses right now with 8 candidates filled out, but we have a couple that have 7 filled out. And so the one I'd recommend is right down here. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 9. All you need is a 6 and 7. Well, if you see the 6 right here, you know you can solve this cell immediately for a 6. And then continue cross-hatching. You might remember we only had 2 6s remaining. With these 2 6s, you can solve this cell for a 6, and you finished all of the 6s. And then we can come back to this, and now we created a full house, and you can solve this cell for the remaining digit of a 7. Crosshatch up here, you can solve this cell for a 7. Crosshatch over here, you can solve the 7 in block 7. And with these two 7s, solve for a 7 in block 1. And then you can see with these two 7s, you can solve for the 7 in block 3. And now with these two 7s, you can solve for a 7 in block 9 and finish these 7s up here in block 6. And so we extend by using an almost full house when the full house was not available, and you saw we were able to continue to solve pretty quickly now. And now you want to revert back to full houses because we created another one here. You might notice this has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Only thing that's remaining is an 8. So again, look there for the 8. And you'll see here, because of this 8, you can crosshatch quickly and find this cell for an 8. 8 can't be there anymore. You can solve this cell for an 8 in block 7 and use these two 8s to crosshatch and solve for an 8 in block 4. Use these two 8s in this 8, solve for an 8 in block 6. And then with this 8 and this 8, there's only one place for an 8 in block 3. And so you go, where do we go next? Well, I see actually 2 full houses in the row and in the column. Look at this cell. So you know you can solve that with certainty for a 5 because there's not a 5 in either one of those. And now we can just follow the 5s around. And the way to do this is, instead of looking at this as a complete full house again, take the 5, look for the 5 in the next adjacent block, and then see where a 5 can go in third block. Boom. And now you can solve that for a 5 quickly. Then look down, and I'm looking in this 3 column band, also known as a tower, and notice the 5 can only go there now in block 4. And it can only go here in block 5. And then with these two 5s, you can solve for 5 in block 6. And I don't see a 5 yet in block 9. We just marked a 5 there. You can solve for a 5. If you keep and stay with the same candidate as long as possible, it makes your solves easier because you don't have to switch mentally between the different candidates. Now we'll switch over here because we have another full house. You got a 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This must be a 3. In the corner, bum, bum, bum. You get a special little celebration whenever you put a 3 in the corner in this Sudoku maker and SudokuPad. All right, solve that for a 3, and we've solved all of the 3s. Come over here to the middle. The only candidate missing is a 2. You look over here. We have a 2 in block 4, but we don't have a 2 in block 6 yet, so the 2 must go there, which leaves us just a 1. And now see these two 1s, just follow it over to block 4, solve that cell for a 1. And then what's remaining is a 9 in block 4. You see these two 9s, you know a 9 has to be right there. Now challenge yourself with the 5 tips I just showed you to solve this next puzzle without marks. Thank you so much for watching.